I'm Dale, Director of Racetorx. We design and manufacture motorcycle parts for road, off-road and race bikes. Today we have the Stark Varg EX. We're going to unbox it, we're going to build it up. We're also going to fit all the Racetorx parts. So on that, let's crack on and build it. So with every Stark bike, you always get a toolkit. In this toolkit, you get a 1/4 inch and a 3/4 inch torque wrench and all the other parts to be able to build the bike up. So let's move on to the bike itself and get it built. With the Stark bikes, another thing you get is the Arkenstone. The Arkenstone mobile phone is an Android-based mobile that sits on the top of the bike. This is your maps, this is your speedo. It can lock and unlock your bike, pretty much everything. We'll show you more about that a little bit later. And that's how it's done. So with the front wheel, we need to do the main bolt, axle bolt, and also the clamp bolts. Clamp bolts are 15 Newton meters. The axle bolt is 35 Newton meters. So firstly, make sure the clamp bolts, make sure that's flush. Clamp one, there we go, 15. Another one, 15. Axle, 35. And these bolts, 15. So now we've done the wheel and the charger, we're going to do the bars. We now need to remove the phone mount and the headlight. So let's get on with that part. So with the bars, they are ready with the laser etching, and we've also got the phone mount marks too, so we can get it where we want them. So now we need to do the handlebars. So we need to torque the bolts up to 30 Newton meters from the guidelines. And then we've got the shell of the phone protector and the phone to go in, and then we can get onto the wiring. We need to get the wiring plugged into the bottom of the Bluetooth device. So we pull this off like that. We also remove this bolt. This will allow us to plug in this little block here onto the back, and that can then plug back into there like that. Now these take off 3 of the back and plug into place. We don't want to put the cap back on both sides. Put the rubber shell back on and the phone can go in. So next we're going to fit the mudguard, so then we've got a location for the headlight. So the final part is the headlight on the front section. To do this, we need to remove this cap again, which should be quite easy. And then these two bottom sections here sit into the grooves of the front mudguard. So drop that down and fit this cable, this plug, into the bottom of the wiring area. And then bolt the headlight down and move on to the next stage. So with the pegs, a bit of a pain, but we can do it. One of the tricks that I do, put the peg in, use a rod to help pry it in place, get the bolt, set it in, and the mallet. Get it just near the threads, and then 20 Newton meters to lock it off. We are now on the most enjoyable part to me. We have the shoulder bolts to replace and the subframe bolts to replace. Firstly, we're going to remove the subframe bolts and fit the bolts themselves, and then remove the plastics. Now we're going to do the shoulder bolts. In here we got the 4 brass fittings. We're now going to fit the titanium shoulder bolts in place, and then depending on which way you order them, you got the aluminium caps or you got bolts, nuts. So fit these in into all 4 brass fittings, And then with a Allen key, just do them hand tight. To refit the plastics, you got a few grooves. You got these two and these two guides here. Slide this over, push it into its seating area and central on either side, and then push it in. Then you can put these two down over the titanium bolts that we've just recently fitted. Hit around, same on the other side, push the plastics into the bolt, shoulder bolt, into the subframe bolt, and just hit around to lock it back in place. On the front, we've got the two shoulder bolts either side. Slightly bend them over so they slot into the grooves. Like that. Same on this side, slightly bend the plastic and that will find a groove. And then the 4 billet caps, you can just screw them in. Okay, we've done the shoulder bolts, we've done the subframe bolts. We're now going to go on to the sprocket bolt and the sprocket spacer. So first things first, the sprocket bolt we need to remove. I've already done this and it's Loctited in. You're going to need to either heat it up or use a nut runner. We've already done it, so now it's easy to remove. Next thing to do is take the bolt out and remove the motor cover and the sprocket cover. Pull the sprocket off, get to the sprocket spacer and pull it out. In the kit, sprocket spacer in titanium, our logo on it too. Pretty simple, straight over. Once that's done, sprocket back over the top, spacer, sprocket bolt. Make sure it's in the groove. And then screw it on. Now we've fitted the sprocket bolt and the sprocket spacer, we're going to leave the original motor cover and sprocket cover off and fit the Racetorx variations. So let's do that. Firstly, motor cover, we reuse the original gasket and original bolts. Only do the top 2 with the smaller bolts. Place it over. At this point, I wouldn't do it tight until you got the sprocket on. So next, a sprocket. 2 long bolts. Set them over. Screws in as well. Now these want to be 9 Newton meters. Okay, now that's these 4 parts done, we now need to get the bike over on its side to fit the large motor cover. With the bike on its side, we're going to remove the motor cover and fit the new Racetorx silver one. With this, we still remove the bolts, remove the cap, and still reuse the gasket. The reason why we lay on its side is so the oil doesn't escape. The cap is quite tight, so be careful. I believe that is it. Yeah. So this is the new motor cover. We refit the cap, remove the gasket, place the gasket back on the engine, motor. I suppose you can class it as. We replace all the bolts into the new case. We'll need the corners to make sure the gasket sits in correctly, then spin round and turn all the bolts. And then make sure the cap's tight. Now what we need to do is pick up the bike and put it back on the stand. Okay, so now we've done that, we can now move on to the throttle housing protector. We're going to use the air nozzle to remove the throttle grip. Slide it underneath. So remove that, pull the cable out, let it sit to the side, remove the cap, remove the bottom of the throttle plug and the actual plug itself. Slide it off. At this point, feed the back of the housing, slide the front of the housing over the top, cable under, and slide it on. Fit the lug back down into the yoke behind the cap and push it in. Plug back in place. Headlight into the 2 grooves in the bottom. Plug it in, get the cap, fit the cap back in place, and then screw the headlight back down. From this point, we need to tighten the throttle tube down. Whilst the throttle housing protector is in place, make sure you know where your handbrake, your front brake is, and make sure it's in the same groove as this cutout. So when that's pulled in, it can catch. So make it so it's flush to the end of the bar. From this point here, pull the housing away and tighten up the lock on the housing. Then you can fit the housing back together with the screws and lock it off. In this process, completely free. If there's any binding of any kind on that, do not fit it. Remove it and contact us, because that means it's crushing inside. This is specifically fit around the shell itself. If for any reason there is any sort of binding on the throttle, it means that there's a little bit of a tolerance issue with the throttle itself. But that is perfect. Then with the throttle, nice little trick. Get some cable ties, slide them in like that. Try and get them equally around each other. Slide it over, pull the cable ties out, one by one, and push that throttle all the way over. Lovely, all done. On to the next one. Okay, now we've got the throttle housing fitted. We now need to make sure that the front brake is clear in this groove here. So when that's in the right place, you pull it all the way in, you can see it's missing, and turn that down like that. So now it doesn't catch in the actual area. So the last thing we'll be fitting today is the dual brake system. Because we've got the foot brake, we only need the handbrake and one cable. If you had the handbrake already fitted all the way down to your rear caliper, then you would need to fit the full foot brake assembly. So let's crack on. We've got the junction valve, we've got the banjo bolts, we've got the Brembo handbrake from Stark, and we've got the Racetorx braided line. So let's get it on. We are going to firstly remove the plastics, take the bolts or caps, depending on what you've got on the bike, off. If you have the EX, you've got 3 bolts underneath. If you've only got the MX, then it's only 1 bolt. Remove those 2 and the one that's under there. And then the front shoulder bolts. We've got the Racetorx shoulder bolts on, so they're easy to remove. If you have the standard, just be careful with the bolts that are in the brass fittings, because sometimes they can be seized. Now we've got the caps off, remove those out of the way, pull the plastic either side, this one off and pull, and slide the whole piece backwards. From there, handbrake, remove the bolts, put it in place. Put it finger tight, just so it stays still. Get the Racetorx braided line, silver, always at the top. So we want to feed it down the same area that your front braided line sits. Fit it under the forged carbon cap cover, under, and through. Over to the other side, we go under and down, Again, down the back here until it comes out the side here. From this point, get some large grips, hold on to it, put something in the banjo tail and spin it until you get it where you want it to face. Always make sure the Racetorx logo is down there and have that set to one side. Ready for the junction valve to be fitted. From this point, get your banjo bolt, fit it in the banjo tail, remove the blue plug, screw it in. Doesn't have to be tight right now because we just need to get it in place. Now, the junction valve. Take out the junction valve, take out one of the O-rings, then in your kit you'll get a bit of grease and just wet it. Sit it over the junction valve. We want a 21mm spanner, remove the cap, put it to one side. Do not touch anything off of that. It does not need to be on this new one. We now need a syringe, something to hold the fluids. Suck out the fluids and then fit, well, clean out the cavity and fit the new junction valve. Put that in there and take out all of the fluid because I want that to be dry. Now, junction valve, drop it in and carefully, you'll see a window here, carefully feed that in until it goes past the window and start screwing it in. When you're bleeding the system, make sure no fluid comes into this window. If there's anything in this window, then there's a problem. Tighten the junction valve in. Just hand tight is fine because the seal is the O-ring. Banjo bolt into the junction valve. .12mm spanner, nice and tight. Up here we can now tighten the banjo bolt on the handbrake. Now we need to remove the cap and back bleed. Remove the cap. So we're going to now fit, we're going to use one of these Phoenix Systems back bleeders, and what this does is it forces the fluid from here through the rear caliper, through the junction valve and up to the handbrake. 8mm spanner, ring spanner on the bleed nipple on the caliper. Make sure there is no air in the Phoenix System back bleeder. That over the caliper, loosen it and then feed fluid through the system. And that is going to be coming out of the master handbrake in a minute. No power yet. So what we'll do, we're going to steal the fluid back out of here to empty it. The joys of a bleed nipple is there is always going to be fluid coming out of the threads, which is the most annoying part. So I'll get a rag to collect all that juice and check up here again. As you can see, bubbles are coming out when you pump it. Air rises. Back bleeding is the best way for the Racetorx thumb brakes or even these dual brake systems for the handbrake. We're already getting a decent brake here. There we go. More bubbles coming, a lot more. If you pull the lever and you let go like that, it's shocking the system, it's shocking all that air. So another thing that I do is on both the foot brake and on the handbrake or the thumb brake, depending on what it's going to be, this always helps. It's about the same as my MX version, so I'd say I'm happy with that. And there's no air in there now, very little. Take a bit out, put the cap back on, and that is done. Make it halfway in the window, get the cap, put it back on, both screws. From there, make sure it's tight, remove the brake bleeder, put the bleed nipple back on, and there we have it, all done. All we now need to do is just fit the plastics. So the last thing we want to do really is fit the side stand bracket on the Stark Varg. The Stark Varg bracket actually fits on both the Supermoto spec and also the MX/Enduro spec. This allows the better angles. So the first thing you want to do is remove the spring, to then remove the side stand bracket, side stand before you take the bracket off. So the best way is using long nose pliers, hook it on there and twist it so it pops off. Get the tool off, out, and undo the bolt. Pull the side stand off, remove the bolt, because that one's too short. Pull the kit out, you'll have this little bracket. If you're running Supermoto, do not fit it. On this bike, it's required. Remove the countersunk bolt. We need to remove the two bolts holding the side stand. Firstly, we want to use the original top bolt, and then the replacement bolt for the bottom. We then get the side stand bracket and the adapter. Right, this adapter needs to come in place here. And then slot side stand over, the bolt in. That's one of them. She will go on. Bosh. And that now is a side stand bracket fitted. All done. Right, that's a wrap on this video. We've gone through a lot today, from building the bike up to fitting all the Racetorx parts. If you have any questions of anything that we've done today, feel free to let me know. And see you on the next one.